Before we really dive in, just a quick note to be transparent. Yes, AI powers elements like our voices here on the Deep Dive. It's a tool that empowers solopreneurs like Brandon, the author of Phillip's Adventures, to expand his reach on, a pretty limited budget.
But we want to reassure you, Brandon personally spends hours planning, reviewing, editing, and publishing every single one of these deep dives. So you can be sure they're all carefully crafted and reviewed by a real human being.
Absolutely. Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we really try to take these, these huge, complex ideas and distill them down into something we can all grab onto, insights that are researched, but also immediately actionable.
And today, we are really strapping in for one of those deep dives that, it gets right to the heart of the big questions, the kind of stuff that I think defines this particular moment we're all living through.
Oh, absolutely.
We're trying to look beyond just the surface level of, the daily news and understand the energetic physics that might be governing our shared reality.
Yeah, because let's be honest, for the last several years, doesn't the world just feel, glitchy?
Glitchy is the perfect word.
Genuinely unstable. Like the foundational code of reality has been, subtly corrupted or something.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing these massive geopolitical rifts just tear across the map.
Mm-hmm.
Conflicts that seemed contained are suddenly, expanding. AI seems to glitch out on basic tasks one minute, and then it's threatening everything with deepfakes the next.
Right. The informational stability is just gone.
It's gone. And then you've got climate systems shifting so fast, and you look up in the sky and there are supermoons and unexpected meteors. It just adds to this whole feeling of high strangeness.
It's this pervasive sense of instability.
Uh-huh.
It's not just political or economic anymore. It's like you said, it's vibrational.
Yes.
It feels less like history is just marching forward in a straight line and more like the entire operating system is throwing up this massive collective error code that we can all see and feel, even if we can't quite articulate what it means.
And, for those of you who were with us on the last deep dive, we spent a lot of time focusing on equipping you with tools for personal agency, for lucidity inside your own reality.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about pausing your reactions, how to tune your own emotional signal, and find clarity in your personal life. Essentially, mastering your individual dreamscape, your micro reality.
And that work is so essential, but it was really just the foundation. Because today, we're scaling those personal lucidity tools up, way up, to massive collective stakes. Our mission today is to try and understand what happens when the entire world starts presenting dream signs all at the same time.
Okay, so let's unpack this with a really powerful hypothesis. What if all this global weirdness, this glitchiness, isn't just random chaos?
Right.
What if it's actually a massive collective dream sign? A clear, universally visible cue that's urgently inviting all of humanity right now to pivot away from all this division and conflict.
And move towards something else.
Yes, towards compassionate co-creation.
We're essentially scaling the core theme from Phillip Aisling's Adventures. Moving from him navigating his own personal nightmares to applying that same kind of lucidity to these huge global challenges.
I love topics like this.
Me too. The hypothesis we're exploring is that the global environment, the whole geopolitical stage, the economy, the information space, is responding directly to the quality and the focus of our collective state of consciousness. Let's begin by trying to define this collective feeling of upheaval, this shared glitch we're all experiencing.
Let's start with that immediate, that visceral experience of right now. When we say global weirdness, we're talking about armed conflicts that just seem to rage on without any clear resolution.
Endless.
Yeah, and this intense political and social polarization that seems impossible to bridge, even on the most basic things.
Mm-hmm. And the economic flux that leaves everybody feeling just so unstable about tomorrow.
Right. And on top of all of that, maybe the most destabilizing part is the flood of deepfakes and AI-driven misinformation that's just blurring the line between what's real and what's a manufactured illusion.
What's so crucial to understand, though, is that this isn't just a list of bad news items. It's a tangible feeling. It's a feeling of unreality.
It is.
It's experienced as these recurring collective nightmares. We keep running into the same arguments, the same cycles of separation, the same inability to solve problems that, intellectually we know can be solved.
And the analysis in the material we're looking at, it characterizes this pattern of perpetual conflict as being dominated by these really rigid, controlling, masculine, action energies.
Right, when they're operating in an unbalanced state.
Exactly. When you're unbalanced, this energy, which is necessary for building and initiating things, it becomes destructive when it only drives separation, when it imposes one will on another without any kind of receptive feedback. It creates that grinding friction we feel everywhere.
Precisely. If you feel like you're trapped in an endless global debate loop, the same binary arguments playing out on every social platform and every government, that is the definition of a recurring collective nightmare.
That's it.
The energy driving it is stuck in this loop of just doing without ever pausing for being or for listening.
That's such a powerful distinction because it reframes the whole chaos. It's not the masculine principle itself, action structure that's the problem.
No, not at all.
It's the unbalanced domination of that action energy without the receptive counterpoint of compassion and consensus and, flexibility.
And this realization leads us directly to the core idea of this whole deep dive, the glitch in the matrix.
Yes.
We often feel like the fundamental rules of reality, the social contract, economic stability, even shared truth are bending or breaking. But when experienced dream masters look at this, they don't see doom. They see the simulation signaling fluidity.
That is such an empowering shift in perspective. So if the rules of our shared reality start to bend, it doesn't mean we're doomed.
Not at all.
It means the system is demanding a collective change. It means the debug mode is suddenly available.
Exactly. When the simulation throws a glitch, whether it's a huge AI failure, a bizarre political decision, or some impossible weather pattern, it's signaling an immediate demand for collective agency, not fear, not fatalism.
It's like in a video game.
Totally. Think of it like that. If you're playing a complex multiplayer game and the world suddenly starts dissolving or the physics stops working, you don't just run and hide. You realize the foundational rules are about to be rewritten, and your conscious participation is required, like right now, to define what the new reality is going to be.
But for a lot of people listening, I think global instability feels so massive, so abstract. How do we connect that scale of chaos back to the personal, actionable tools we've talked about before?
We have to draw the parallel. The parallel between these huge, large-scale glitches and Phillip Aisling's personal lucidity cues. We know from practice that collective glitches signal timeline forks. When Phillip was mastering his own dreamscape, he learned to recognize his cues in small, personal, off moments.
Right, like the intense sunburn in a dream.
Exactly. Or that feeling of exam déjà vu that alerted him that he was stuck in a loop he needed to break. Those mundane personal cues were his signals to pause and take control.
So when we see a massive political split that makes absolutely no logical sense, or an algorithm-driven conflict just blows up online and becomes a global trend, that's our intense sunburn moment.
Yes, but on a collective level.
That's the shared reality saying, hey, pay attention, this is the loop you're stuck in.
It is. When you notice the world feels profoundly off, whether it's a bizarre news cycle that defies logic or an unexpected celestial event or economic volatility that just feels engineered, it is the universe's way of saying, pause.
Step outside the loop.
Step outside the reactive loop and ask, what fundamental pattern demands a rewrite here? The stakes are so much higher than a personal nightmare. But the mechanism for engagement, lucidity, pause, intention, it's identical to the personal practice.
So that's the call to action right now for you listening. Just reflect for a moment. What has been your own global dream sign this week? Your own glitch? Was it a piece of news that just felt profoundly absurd? A strange synchronization of events? Or an intense, unexpected weather event that just felt off?
Just hold that feeling in your mind, because that absurdity, that weirdness, that is your invitation to agency.
It's not something to fear.
It's not something to fear or avoid. It's a cue to become lucid in our shared reality. Right. Recognizing that we're dealing with a shared fluidity is the necessary first step. We move from being passive recipients of the news to being active, intentional debuggers of the collective script.
So if we accept this framework, then every moment of chaos is it's an opportunity. An opportunity to consciously pivot the narrative. But if these glitches are just cues, we have to talk about what's actually driving the nightmare itself.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the nightmare's mechanism. This is where the concept of draiths comes into the global picture. We hear this term in the source material, but let's define it practically for everyone.
Right. Draiths, for the purpose of this deep dive, are best understood not as literal ghosts, but as invading spirits, or maybe more accurately, as persistent, invasive thought forms. They're manifestations of pure, unadulterated fear.
And they thrive on low vibration.
They do. They excel at creating separation, distrust, and tribalism. I mean, if you look at modern global affairs, what is the single most successful mechanism to separation? It's polarization.
So polarization is, in essence, draiths hijacking the collective script.
That's it. It's a fear-based mechanism designed to make us feel isolated, defensive, perpetually under threat. It forces us into these opposing camps, where any kind of compassionate co-creation becomes energetically impossible.
The intensity of the division we see is directly proportional to the success of that draith agenda.
That's the elegant, if terrifying analysis. They don't need complicated policy debates. They just need to generate enough binary opposition, us versus them, to prevent any genuine, cohesive social agreement.
And when we look at the dominant energy driving the separation, it is, as we noted, that unbalanced masculine action energy. We should probably spend a little more time elaborating on what that unbalanced energy actually looks like on a global stage, not just as some abstract idea.
Okay, yeah. In concrete global scenarios, unbalanced masculine action energy manifests as zero-sum thinking. It's the rigid belief that for one side to win, the other side must completely lose.
Right. There's no middle ground.
None. It looks like inflexible policy, refusing to integrate new data because it threatens the established structure. It's an overwhelming reliance on brute force or aggressive rhetoric instead of negotiation or consensus building. It's the energy of my way or the highway, but applied to the entire world stage.
And this is where we can bring in the Bashar framework, which analyzes these energetic probabilities based on our current collective focus.
And we should frame this purely in terms of energetic likelihoods.
Yes, exactly.
That read suggested that the dominant, unbalanced masculine action energy, if it's left unchecked, if our collective consciousness continues to focus overwhelmingly on conflict, on zero-sum opposition, and rigid aggression, it's directed toward a high probability of what was termed termination WW3.
It is absolutely critical that we frame this neutrally. This is not a political prediction about specific outcomes or leaders.
No.
It is purely an analysis of energetic probability.
Precisely. If you chart a course purely determined by unyielding conflict, well, that's the energetic destination. It's the natural consequence of pure, unchecked, separation-driven action. But, and this is the massive, critical disclaimer that has to be constantly reinforced.
This is not a locked timeline.
It is not a locked timeline. We're dealing in probabilities, not certainties.
Which means if the problem is this unbalanced action energy, this hyper-aggressive, separation-driven, masculine focus, then the solution has to be the conscious integration of its counterpart.
Yes. We need the necessary pivot to feminine energy, the receptive, the inclusive, the unifying principle.
This feminine energy is the essential balance needed for collective stability and progress. And it's not about being passive or inactive.
Not at all. It's about receptive action. It's the energy that pauses the impulse to just fight and asks, how can we hold this conflict with compassion? What common ground could create a resilient long-term solution?
It seeks alignment.
It seeks alignment and harmony before initiating a grand project. It ensures that the structure that gets built, that's the masculine principle, is durable and inclusive, which is the feminine principle.
That really makes the shift from a cliche to something concrete. It means moving from we must defeat them to we must design a better system that serves all parties involved.
And what happens when we apply this unifying, receptive feminine energy on a massive scale?
So the immediate challenge for you listening isn't to go fix the stock market or end a war single-handedly. The challenge is reframing how we approach news cycles and conflict personally. Instead of reacting to separation, which is the draith trap, we have to pause and ask that question.
What unity code hides here?
Yes.
That's the pivot point. You look at an intense conflict online or geopolitical, and you realize that the sheer intensity of the opposition is simply highlighting the profound human desire for connection and understanding that's been blocked. The division itself is a hyperbolic expression of a suppressed longing for unity.
Wow.
If we can see the unity code underneath the fear, we diminish the draith's power instantly.
And this brings us back so powerfully to the individual. Amidst all this global flux, we have to emphasize this core message again. Your personal vibration is the anchor of the collective.
Tuning your emotional signal to unity over division, choosing compassion when the news invites rage, choosing patience when the system invites panic, that is how you navigate these probable timelines.
It's the mechanism.
No timeline is locked. Your vibration shifts the path anytime. That is the profound agency available to every single one of us right now. You are not just observing a potentially collapsing world. You are actively administering the collective script with every conscious choice you make.
That moves the focus from helplessness to, to profound, immediate, high-stakes responsibility. But how do we know this works? Let's look at how this mechanism plays out in the microcosm of Phillip Aisling's world.
We often use Phillip's reality as a kind of functioning laboratory for these huge ideas. The small scale of his world provides these really clear, detailed blueprints for global action.
And the most salient example, the one that perfectly mirrors global conflict, is the school upheaval and global plots. We should probably revisit the details of that story.
Yeah. This is the story of Phillip, right after he received the nagwaagan, and he used it to foil Mrs. Noodle's divisive plot in his school. Mrs. Noodle's plot was just this masterful manipulation designed to create chaos, suspicion, and aggressive division among the students. She was turning them against each other, using manufactured fear and misunderstanding about resources or, perceived threats.
Let's analyze that scene as a microcosm, really give it the depth it deserves.
Yeah.
The school upheaval, the fear, the gossip, the suspicion that just paralyzes the student body, it perfectly parallels global plots.
Oh, completely.
Think of the algorithms that drive polarization, or the state-sponsored propaganda designed explicitly to divide us, to sort us into these warring, self-contained factions. Social media echo chambers are the modern-day Mrs. Noodle's plot. They rely on fear to mandate separation.
This shift towards sustained, shared lucidity connects directly to the principles detailed in the Metaphysician's levels.
Mm-hmm.
The Metaphysician's framework outlines these various multiverse levels of reality, suggesting that different frequencies of consciousness inhabit different planes.
Mm-hmm.
The profound connection here is that societies, just like individuals, ascend to higher levels of reality only by sustaining awareness and pivoting away from these destructive fear-based loops.
So, if a society maintains deep entrenched polarization, if it refuses to acknowledge the shared reality of the co-dreamer, it just can't generate the necessary vibrational stability to access a higher level of reality. Is that it?
Exactly. It means that our collective political and social behavior isn't just about effective governance. It's about energetic physics. It literally dictates the frequency of the reality we collectively inhabit.
Wow.
Pivoting polarization to co-dreaming is the mechanism for societal ascension. When we see nations or groups locked in this perpetual zero-sum conflict, we are witnessing a collective inability to sustain awareness, which traps them in a lower-level reality characterized by lack and opposition. Our work is to raise the anchor of that collective signal.
And we see the application of this intentional unifying pivot in the path to Arborea.
Right. Arborea, that place of profound harmony and realization, it was only accessible to Phillip after he consciously used the nagwaagan. This demonstrates how deep, clear, often receptive intention, the feminine intention, must consciously balance that outward, often chaotic or reactive action, the masculine action, for these radical shifts to occur.
You don't muscle your way into a harmonious reality. You have to consciously intend it into being first, and then the path opens up. You stabilize the energy first.
That balance is the secret sauce. The clear intention, the feminine receptive planning, it clears the way for effective action, the masculine doing, by aligning the environment.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, when you look at the news and you feel that overwhelming stress, your unbalanced masculine action energy often wants to argue or fight or fix it immediately by some external means.
Yeah, that's the impulse.
But the conscious feminine pivot is to pause, anchor your vibration through intentional peace and unity, and then act from a place of connection, not opposition.
That is the pathway to Arborea on a collective scale. That is how you use your agency to debug this shared environment.
So we have the theory, the framework, the prototypes. Now, how do we operationalize this for the everyday listener? We aren't suggesting that people just meditate their way out of a global crisis.
No, not at all.
But rather that their intentional presence is the most necessary, powerful intervention. So let's look at the practical methods for tuning our signal amidst the chaos. Let's talk about wielding vibration anchors.
Okay. The primary goal of these practices is really simple: stabilizing the collective reality. Experienced dream masters know that when a shared dream becomes chaotic, the number one priority is stabilization.
Right.
If you have enough lucid participants holding a clear, cohesive signal, a strong, unified vibration, the dream environment actually stabilizes around them. It literally prevents the shared reality from dissolving further into chaos.
And the sources specifically mention things like breathwork and gratitude practices as these vibration anchors. We should explain why these simple acts are such powerful tools for collective change.
Think of the collective environment as being flooded with informational and vibrational pollution. Deepfakes, economic volatility, constant conflict. It all creates this vibrational noise.
A static-filled channel.
Exactly. A static-filled channel that prevents clear communication and coherent collective thought. Breathwork and gratitude are the noise-canceling technology. They immediately elevate your personal frequency, providing a clear signal, which then radiates outward. By stabilizing your personal anchor, you are helping stabilize the entire collective field against all that disruptive noise.
It sounds so counterintuitive that stopping to breathe can help with geopolitical negotiations, but you're saying that the energetic cleanliness of the channel is the prerequisite to achieving coherence at any scale.
It is the necessary foundation. If the signal is clear, the path opens. And this leads us to the nightly practices for timeline forks. The simple, solitary act of journaling can become a powerful form of active lucidity and reality administration.
So introduce the practice. At night, take a moment to consciously process the glitches you saw by journaling to reveal the cue in today's weirdness.
This is about processing the day's chaos, not as random suffering, but as conscious cues. You journal about unrest or major conflicts or even strange synchronicities, not with fear or fatalism, but as potential timeline forks that require a conscious, intentional choice. You're no longer just recording history. You're identifying the exact points of influence where your energy can make a difference.
So if I see a major conflict erupt, instead of just feeling fear and helplessness, I'd write down something like, "This conflict is a fork demanding compassion. My choice is to radiate unifying intention into this field."
Yes.
And that choice, recorded with intention, becomes part of rewriting the script.
Absolutely. That recorded intention sets the trajectory for your subconscious engagement with the collective field overnight. And this practice is massively amplified by group circles. The sources really emphasize that simple shared affirmations can have a profound effect on the shared reality.
Affirmations like "we co-create harmony," held by multiple people even if they're not in the same room, can stabilize and shift things.
It's the difference between a single voice trying to tune a guitar and an entire orchestra tuning together. The collective resonance of shared, focused intention amplifies the effect exponentially.
The collective intention acts as a beacon, guiding the probable timeline towards coherence, away from that conflict-driven path.
We're moving from passive spiritual belief to active collective reality management through synchronized intent.
Okay, let's dive into the core applications of this during, active conflict consumption. The first one is application A, reframing division, or the snow fort altitude.
This is maybe the most practical metaphor for navigating intense news and online arguments. It's derived directly from Philip's experience shifting his perspective. When you're in an intense debate or consuming polarizing news that instantly triggers you.
Your defensive or enraged mechanisms.
Right. The practice is to imagine instantly ascending to a high vantage point, like the snow fort altitude shift Philip used to gain perspective over his own conflict.
From that altitude, you're not denying the reality of the pain or the conflict, but you're seeing the whole landscape. You're seeing the entire system, including your opponent's position and the deep fear that's driving it, but with profound empathy.
You witness the debate with compassion. You understand that they are reacting to their own version of the collective nightmare, and often they're entirely programmed by those draiths of fear.
The key shift here is reframing the person you disagree with, even vehemently, even if they seem totally trapped in delusion, not as an enemy to be destroyed.
But as a co-dreamer, they are essential participants in the unfolding story, however frustrating or wrong-headed their immediate role may seem. Their opposition is simply highlighting the shadow that requires integration.
So the question to ask, instead of how can I win this argument and prove them wrong, becomes this uniting question. Co-dreamer, what shared lesson are we creating here through this intense polarity?
That single reframing dissolves the draith's power immediately, because it inserts unity and conscious inquiry, where the programming demands emotional separation. It acknowledges the shared humanity and the shared trajectory, regardless of the immediate disagreement. That is lucid intervention in real time.
Okay, moving on to application B, collective intention rituals. We're not talking about complicated, time-consuming ceremonies, right?
No, not at all. Simple, daily, intentional moments that solidify the feminine pivot. The sources suggest a simple, powerful evening ritual focused on this collective intention. We tune feminine harmony amid masculine storms.
It's a deliberate, daily attempt to reinforce that receptive, unifying, consensus-building energy that's needed for global balance. It counters the perpetual motion of separation.
And the practical, tangible result of this consistent shared practice, according to the sources, it's fostering positive synchronicities in the collective field.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Synchronicities are manifestations of coherence in the external world. When enough people are tuning to feminine harmony, to peace, compassion, unity, the universe responds by aligning events, people, and resources in unexpected ways that facilitate resolution and progress, rather than escalating conflict and decay.
So your intention literally magnetizes favorable collective outcomes.
Often by connecting you to others who are holding the same signal.
Yes. Finally, we have application C, ethical war and compassion. This is the advanced practice that truly separates the dream master from the spiritual escapist.
Advanced dreamers know a fundamental truth. Compassion dissolves nightmares. Nightmares, collective or personal, cannot sustain themselves in the presence of genuine, unreserved compassion. Therefore, the highest form of lucid defense, the ethical ward, is to treat those perceived as opponents or enemies, not as mistakes or obstacles to be overcome, but as real, vital participants in the shared dream.
That sounds incredibly challenging when you're dealing with true antagonists, but it forces us to acknowledge their reality, their pain, and their vital, necessary role in our collective development.
They're showing us exactly where the collective shadow needs light.
This ethical ward is essential for dissolving collective nightmares like polarization because it directly contrasts with the energy that fuels division, which is called NPC energy.
Right. NPC energy.
Can you define that? What is NPC energy?
Non-player character energy. It's when people blindly follow their programmed scripts. The default political reactions, the algorithmic outrage, the inherited cultural bias, without ever engaging in conscious choice or original thought.
And polarization just thrives on this energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you treat others like non-player characters who can only follow their programming, you guarantee they will remain stuck in that limiting, predictable script.
But collective co-creation demands Model 2 awareness.
And Model 2 it's the conscious realization that every single participant, from the person you disagree with online to a global leader, is acknowledged as a co-dreamer, capable of change and contribution.
So your decision to extend compassion, even when it feels incredibly difficult, is the activation switch that can pull them out of that limiting NPC script and into co-creative agency.
It's the ultimate, highest leverage act of collective lucidity, acknowledging the reality and potential of your adversary.
Okay, that was a truly immersive and I think necessary look at scaling our personal reality tools to the global stage. Here's the climax and synthesis of everything we've talked about today.
We have to reiterate the core, most empowering insight from the sources. These global glitches are not signs of doom. They are urgent, immediate invitations to unity.
Right.
They're the universe signaling that the old separation-based script has failed, and a massive intentional rewrite is mandatory.
And crucially, your personal signal, your compassionate choice, your tuned vibration, your decision to pivot away from fear and the draith trap is actively administering the collective script. You are not a spectator to the chaos.
You're the system administrator.
You are the system administrator with immediate debug access.
But how do we make sure this responsibility translates into effective action and not just, spiritual bypass?
Yeah.
By recognizing that the goal isn't personal escape from the mess. The goal is to wake up together inside the shared dream, to focus on collective freedom, to pivot from division to harmony, one compassionate choice and intention at a time. The moment you become lucid, you stabilize and change the probabilities for everyone on that cruise ship.
That is powerful. And the final provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. Lucidity scales. It scales from tackling your smallest personal monsters, your own fear and reactivity, all the way up to addressing the massive world weirdness you see on the news, all through one intentional, compassionate pivot at a time. The shared world is waiting for your signal to stabilize.
We really hope this deep dive has given you not only context for the current global environment, but also practical daily tools to engage with it lucidly and confidently.
As always, thank you for tuning into the deep dive. Please like, follow, and share this deep dive with others who you think might be feeling the glitch or seeking a pathway toward co-creation amidst all the chaos.
And again, just a reminder, first editions of The Dreams of Phillip Aisling and The Numinous Nagwaagan are still available. So grab your copy now and unlock the full source material for these powerful adventures before they're gone. It's $25 on Amazon or just $17 if you sign up for the newsletter on the website.
That website is phillipaisling.com. And we also invite you to share your own global glitch stories and let us know what collective dream signs you've been noticing lately and how you're applying your lucidity.
Join us next time for a fascinating look at our next deep dive. Belief, doubt, and faith in modern times. Why so many are asking big questions again.
Until then, stay lucid.